pullback today in Bitcoin as well as quite a bit of the altcoins here because Bitcoin is still the driver of this crypto market. What is it going to take for the crypto bulls to actually rebound here from this pullback? We're going to be taking a look into that as well as deeper dives into altcoin charts later in this video, which we'll get into Arweave, which is an altcoin, AI altcoin, AIOZ network, as well as what is the third one? I always forget the third one. Third one is Velo, and see what's happening in some of these altcoins later in this video. What are their trading setups? What are their price targets? Has anything changed since the last time I've talked about them? So we're going to get into that later in this video. We're going to talk about some major economics and cryptos news as well before diving into the charts. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and do that. Okay. First piece of news here is by Dow Jones Newswire. Trump threatens higher China tariffs. Nasdaq falls 2%. Wall Street Journal. So that could be what it is. That is the major news that could be affecting the markets today. I do think that it is still very important to be paying attention to not only Bitcoin but the stock market, which is the S&P 500 futures that opens on Sundays. Okay, Sunday afternoons Pacific Standard Time. That is also down today over 1%, which is pretty significant. So let's take a look into what's happening with ES1 exclamation mark, which is the stock, the S&P 500 futures. All right, so let's take a look into the weekly time frame here, which I talked about as a major technical indicator that could um, that could be a very good signal for Bitcoin. Okay, it broke out of a bearish pattern, which this is on the weekly time frame. A couple of weeks ago. Why is that important? Because Bitcoin is in a bearish pattern right now, has yet to break outside of the rising wedge that it is in on the weekly time frame. Very important to keep an eye on Bitcoin right now because a move is about to come. I am long on Bitcoin. I am long on quite a bit of the altcoins here. So my opinions on this market is bullish. However, these are just my opinions and not financial advice. You guys got to form your own opinions and strategies. So I have a few major bullish arguments, right? Some of which involves technicals, some of which involves some macro indicators, like the Fed has just decided to decrease rates, right, back in September and started its rate cut cycle. That is going to be significant. That is one main argument I have for being long. Second one is going to be, well, it's going to be technicals, right, for Bitcoin, okay? One of which is going to be, of course, stock market breaking out of its rising wedge pattern, right? Could Bitcoin follow and break out of this rising wedge pattern, which is a very similar pattern? However, on the monthly time frame, this is going to be a very important indicator I'll be keeping an eye out on throughout this bull cycle because I still think this bull cycle is on. Because if we actually take a look into the monthly RSI reading, we have nowhere been near the FOMO levels like back in 2021, 2017. Those bull cycle RSI readings. I mean, do we have to play out exactly the same way we did? No. But is there anything telling me otherwise right now? Also, no. Now, these are just my opinions. Of course, let's go ahead and go to the next piece of news here. This is by Cointelegraph. AI bubble, Bitcoin's high correlation to Nvidia sparks 80% crash warning. I mean, what is the time frame, right? I mean, what is the time frame for what this analyst is talking about? So key takeaways, Bitcoin's correlation with Nvidia has surged to 0.75, which is, I would say that's pretty high. I mean, uh, on a scale of 0 to 1, I mean, if we're talking about positive correlation, of course, its highest in a year. Okay, analysts fear such a correlation may result in Bitcoin price dropping by up to 80%. I mean, 80% is a lot, but I don't doubt I mean, I think there's a slim chance. I think we're all talking about probabilities here, right? I think 80% is a lot. Based on what happened in the last bull cycle, right? We went to about 65,000 and went all the way down to about 15,000. That was, I mean, is that about, I think 80%? Correct me if I'm wrong on the math. So, I mean, I think there's a chance, right? Maybe especially after we get a blow off top, but I don't think so right now, right? I mean, we haven't really done too much yet this year, and the bulls are still holding above some of these key high levels, especially the 110K level, right? That was the top last year. So if you guys want to give this a read, you guys can. It's in TradingView. I have a affiliate link in the description section below. If you guys sign up using my link, I will get a affiliate commission. And let's go ahead and go to the next piece here, which is by Crypto Potato. Bitcoin price analysis. Healthy pullback before another surge to fresh all-time highs. I still think so. I think the next level of support that we could be looking at is about 117, 118K, which is basically the daily 21 SMA. If the support that we're at right now does not hold, I mean, we're already basically at 118K, right? So let's go ahead and go to the next piece. This is by ZY Crypto. Spot Bitcoin ETFs record $3.2 billion inflows as traders eye significant uptake. Yep. I mean, there are, like I said, there are some macro arguments as well as technical arguments to the bull cycle still being on. Let's take a look into a very another chart I want to show you guys. This is the Google Trend charts for Bitcoin. These are weekly data points going back to 2020, and this has high correlation with bullish waves happening. Right, if you actually track the weekly or even the monthly time frame for Bitcoin, which drives the crypto markets. Right, you guys will see a correlation. Right, 2020, 2020, 2023. I think that was another one I remember, and of course last year, and right now it is starting to come up again. This indicates to me that retail interest is still rising for Bitcoin right now. Okay, so that is another thing that makes me bullish about the cycle. Okay, about what's happening right now is that I don't think it's over yet because I think retail is still coming in. Okay, when retail stops coming in, I think that would be a major warning sign. But I still think they're still coming in based on the graph that I just showed you. Next piece here is by News BTC. Digital asset demanding rising. Digital assets demand rising. 1 in 2 institutions to increase holdings within a year. I mean, that definitely sounds bullish for the crypto markets as a whole. I mean, doesn't mean that we're gonna pump instantly. Probably not. But I mean, I think it's gonna be a slow, probably a slower trend here, slower uptrend here, as we have already been seeing. It's nothing straightforward like back in 2021, right, where there was just straight blast off. But I've been talking about this rising wedge pattern. Okay, I do think that if the bulls manage to break out of this pattern here, that there is going to be a significant move to the upside because I think all the bears, just my opinion, are going to be trying to short this thing right now because it is a bearish pattern that has a higher chance of breaking to the upside. Okay, so a lot of short sellers are going to be trying to come in here near the top of this pattern, um, which is understandably so, right? I would have done it, but I am more bullish on this market right now, and I did not put in a short. I mean, it would have still been a good hedge, anyways, right? While this market is going down, I could have still made some money, but I was just thinking too much on longs. So missed opportunity on my parts. Would have been able to take a short profit, right? Now, let's go ahead and go to. So this is the pattern to be paying attention to. If this thing breaks down, that's going to be very bad for the altcoins. and this channel is getting very tight. That means a move is about to happen. Okay, let's go ahead and go to altcoins. First is going to be Velo. What's happening with Velo here? Weekly time frame. I talked about a falling wedge pattern here for Velo. This is a falling wedge pattern, and falling wedges have a higher chance of breaking to the upside. It is still running within this pattern here. This is the beauty about technical analysis. It's because it works a lot, right? Not 100%, but it works a lot. Enough to give me an edge on what I think this market could be doing on certain time frames, especially some of these larger time frames, right? Now, if Velo actually breaks out by this point, for example, which is next week, just for example, I'm just saying, the price target would be about 2.2 cents, okay? If it doesn't, then I'm going to move this measure move along this upper trend line if this pattern stays intact. Now, falling wedges have a higher chance of breaking to the upside, but I always consider the downside of everything, okay? Because I've seen falling wedges break down, and I've also seen price targets, after the breakout, it doesn't meet its price target, or it could go above its price targets, okay? So some things to be wary of. And price targets are estimates only. There could be more, there could be less, a lot of which is going to depend on what happens with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin starts dumping more from here, that's not going to be good for a lot of these altcoins here, and these setups, they're not going to be worth very much. Let's go ahead and go to a smaller time frame for Velo here. I think the 4-hour time frame is what I want to pay attention to. 4-hour time frame, smaller falling wedge within that falling wedge pattern. And there's a smaller falling wedge here on this 4-hour time frame, a double bottom from within the smaller falling wedge pattern. Let's see if Velo can actually break out of this smaller falling wedge pattern and go towards the upper trend line of that bigger one. Next piece here, next is going to be AIOZ. Let's go ahead and go to weekly time frame for AIOZ. Falling wedge pattern on the weekly time frame here. So I mentioned this last time. Let's just say if AIOZ, I'm going to move this measure move along this upper trend line here. Now, measure move, if it breaks out by this point, it's going to be about 56 cents price targets. Let's see if Velo can actually manage to break to the upside of this pattern here. Otherwise, there could be more downside if it breaks down from this falling wedge pattern. Then the next key support I'll be looking at, if this thing actually breaks down, the next support I'll be looking at would just be from candle data from back here, right? Because if you don't have any more moving averages as support, then I'm looking at candles for a signal. The next one would be about 21 cents for AIOZ if it breaks down from here. If 21 cents does not hold, I'm looking at here, that would be about 19 cents for AIOZ network. Let's go ahead and go to Arweave and see what's happening with Arweave. Alright, I talked about this huge falling wedge pattern here on this weekly time frame. Arweave broke out back in July. Price target is still valid, about 39 cents price target. Let's see if it meets that, because there's quite a bit of resistance along the way right now. Let's see if it can get over those resistance, okay? Including your weekly 21 SMA at about $6.60, 65 cents. Weekly 50 SMA, $10. Weekly 200 SMA, which is about above $15. And then we're taking a look into a smaller falling wedge pattern here, which Arweave has formed after the breakout of this bigger one. It has been a slow market. It has been a boring market, right? This whole year has been a lot of consolidation. Not many big moves yet, okay? I do think one is going to come, especially if Bitcoin actually manages to break out of, well, I mean, either way, right? A big move is going to come. So, I mean, that could be to the upside or downside, right? Now, this is a smaller falling wedge pattern here. In my opinion, this falling wedge pattern is still intact, the small falling wedge pattern, because the bears actually try to break down from this falling wedge pattern here, but the candle closes are are still above that bottom trend line of that falling wedge pattern. Very close call. I'm gonna say that it is still above that bottom trend line there. So if we don't get candle closes below the falling wedge pattern, then this falling wedge pattern is still intact. And in fact, this would be for the past 2 weeks, the bears have actually been getting faked out because it wicked below the pattern and the bulls bought it right back up into the pattern. Let's go ahead and go to a smaller time frame. Let's see if I can get some more clarity. Okay, the bears are still trying to break down from that smaller falling wedge pattern. Let's go ahead and chart this real quick. 4-hour time frame. This is another falling wedge pattern, which you guys should know by now, because it's probably the most common pattern you guys will see if you guys start charting your candles. And it's probably going to be the most effective and simple pattern, okay? Because it tells you after an extensive downtrend on that time frame that the price action is likelier to break to the upside. Now, if this one breaks to the upside, let's just say, for example, this point here, the price target would be about $6.50, which is still a decent move for a smaller altcoin. So this is basically what I'm seeing for Arweave, AIOZ Network, Velo. Let me know if you guys want to continue seeing any more of these coins by dropping a like, comment, subscribe, or any other coins in this market. I'll pick a request to do for you guys on a daily basis, and I'll see you on the next one.